everyone, and welcome to Hi everyone, and welcome to the webinar on key themes and pricing trends that we are witnessing in SAP services market. Now, most of us would agree that SAP has been leading the enterprise applications arena over the past many decades. In fact, for many enterprises, it has been the tech backbone. Essentially, it's the backbone for their core business operations. Now, over the past few years, if I were to talk about, many enterprises have been embarking on the digital transformation journey. And to help these enterprises, most of the tech vendors and the hyperscalers have also been investing, have also been releasing new services, new products, so as to keep abreast of the changing dynamics. SAP itself has been doing that via an organic and an inorganic route. Right? It has launched SAP RISE, SAP BTP, which are more of a cloud native, cloud enabled offerings. Now, due to all of these things, we have seen some traction, some changes happening on the services side as well. In this webinar, we are going to talk about some of those changes, some of the emerging themes, and what the providers have been doing to keep themselves abreast of the changing dynamics. Uh, with that, let me quickly introduce myself and my two of my colleagues who have joined me in this discussion. So I'm Pratik Gupta, Vice President and part of the pricing assurance team of Everesto. I lead some of the price, solution, and contract benchmarking initiatives specific to the IT application services side. I have overall 11 plus years of experience. With that, let me hand it over to Abhishek for a quick introduction.
Thank you, Pratik. Hi, everyone. This is Abhishek. I am also a practice director with the firm, and I lead our enterprise platform services practice, where we house all our research of leading enterprise platform, be it SAP, Oracle, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and others. Good to be here on the call and look forward to share my insights on the services market today.
Hi everyone, I'm Raghav Munjal, Practice Director with Everest Group in the Pricing Assurance team. I focus on application and digital services research, primarily in the area of ERP transformation, be it SAP, Oracle, other products. Really excited to be on this forum today to share insights on the key trends. Back to you, Pratik.
Thanks, Raghav. Okay, so before we start with the discussion, let's go through the agenda first. Right? The overall agenda has been divided into three phases. The first section is going to be focused on some of the emerging themes, what sort of investments enterprises are doing, the challenges and opportunity areas for service providers, especially in SAP services market. Just to highlight, when we say SAP services, we include both SAP transformation as well as SAP managed services over here. The second section would be focused more on the pricing trends and some of the solutioning levers that the SAP services providers bring in transformation opportunities, managed services opportunities. And the last section is differentiators and value adds, which are being proposed by some of the leading system integrators within this space. With that, let me hand it over to Abhishek to talk about some of the themes in SAP services.
Okay, thank you, Pratik. Right. So I think what we can start off with is at a high level, like what are some of the specific enterprise priorities across the enterprise platform services, be it SAP, Oracle, or others. So on this slide, if you look at some of the key demand themes that we are seeing in the market today, I think the top one is cloud migration. The overall theme of cloud migration has strengthened over the last 1 or 2 years, wherein now enterprises are looking to create that core around cloud technologies, and this enterprise core can be on some of the platform companies, be it SAP or a Salesforce, and this core can also be on something like a hyperscaler of choice, be it AWS, Azure, or a GCP. But then overall, I think that value proposition is very clear to a lot of enterprises that they need to be on cloud, and whenever whatever initiatives they are thinking from a functional transformation perspective, they are thinking cloud first. So that is the first, I think, the top demand theme. The second is around industry applications. So when we look at this cloud core, the way they are looking to build this is in form of a composable platform, which has different moving pieces. And a lot of these moving pieces are industry specific, and they are designed industry specific first. What earlier used to happen is you are adopting a software and then customizing it to make it industry specific, which ends up creating a lot of technical debt, and which makes the overall application very heavy to update. Now enterprises have realized that, and when they are thinking cloud first, they are also thinking industry specific first. And that's where a lot of the investments of not only hyperscalers but also enterprise platform companies such as SAP is moving towards, where they are building some lot of industry specific applications. Service partners have a big role to play in the SAP ecosystem. I think for them as well, their key investment area or priority is around building some of these contextualized applications and creating differentiation in the market. The third theme is around workflow modernization, right? Now, this is a very interesting one. I think this got into prominence over the last 2-3 years, wherein we saw a lot of platform companies like Pega or ServiceNow in the market, which enable a lot of enterprises to modernize without doing the heavy lifting legacy modernization. So essentially, keeping that legacy core intact and then adding new workflows on top of it was one of the key use case of a lot of these workflow modernization initiatives. Now, while enterprises are moving to cloud and modernizing and making that core clean and lean, they are also thinking of ways to build these workflows across IT and business. And a lot of the investments, even in the SAP community, SAP landscape, we see there are a lot of interesting use cases coming up from a workflow modernization perspective. Fourth one is integration platforms. Now, we all are aware that how integration has been a key challenge area in the enterprise applications paradigm. Um, and it has only worsened over the last few years, wherein we see a lot of SaaS applications coming into play, a lot of point-based solutions coming into play, which has kind of increased the SaaS sprawl. Now, the way a lot of enterprises are thinking about integration issue is, I think the cloud core and composable core is, I think, one, and the second is around having a single platform which integrates all of their enterprise applications together. So this platform of choice can be something like a SAP BTP, or it can be something like a MuleSoft or any other hyperscaler of choice. But then that is clear from the beginning that that integration needs to be solved as the issue, and now enterprises are actively going after this particular challenge area. Fifth one is sustainability. Now this is interesting. I think sustainability, we have been talking a lot about it, and when we did this similar exercise in last year, sustainability was not one of the top 5 demand themes, but this year it is. And it is largely because what enterprises now have realized that the way to think about sustainability is not in a reactive fashion, wherein they have done with the overall transformation initiatives, and then there are new policies coming in, and then they build point-based solutions to address those policies on a reactive basis. Now they have started thinking about sustainability as design first. So when they are thinking of their finance transformation, when they are thinking of their supply chain transformation, they are thinking that, okay, what are the kind of modules that I need to invest in my financial suite or a supply chain suite, which enables my sustainability reporting from day one, rather than building on top of their existing applications. So those are the 5 prominent themes we see in the market. market today when we talk about enterprise platform services and SAP services. Moving on to the next slide. Yeah. So so I think beyond those 5 things, what is also interesting is, I did mention earlier about, the SaaS sprawl, wherein there are multiple applications in a single enterprise landscape. Now, the another theme that is prominent is around the best of breed, right? So it's no longer about a single stack ownership. So what earlier used to be either a SAP stack or a Oracle stack, now it's a best of breed, wherein your finance can be handled by SAP and your supply chain can be handled by Oracle, and at the same time your human capital can be managed by a Workday in the mix. Now, what earlier was happening, this was getting built as a result of multiple initiatives, wherein your business function is thinking of their specific business function. For example, finance is looking to transform, and they ended up doing it through SAP. And then when their operations team or supply chain team was thinking of transformation, they ended up doing it on Oracle. Now, when you're looking at some of the large scale business transformation, uh, enterprises are thinking best of the breed right from the day one, wherein they are evaluating each technology vendor in terms of capability specific to those functional areas. And therein, what we are seeing is they are thinking of a lot of these combinations. For example, a Pega and a SAP together, or a Salesforce and SAP together. How can they help them achieve a specific functional transformation? Because each cloud platform, be it a S4 HANA or be it a Salesforce or a ServiceNow or a Workday, um, in terms of their overall maturity, is somewhere or the other incomplete. There are a lot of functionalities which are missing in even S4 HANA or even a Salesforce. When you combine a lot of these platforms together, it kind of creates that entire story for enterprises, and they're looking to build that right from the day one, rather than as a reactive approach where different functional units are thinking of these initiatives in a standalone and a silos. So here, what we are also seeing interestingly is how service partners and the partner community is contributing to this phenomenon, where from their go-to-market perspective to clients, they are taking a joint value proposition of a lot of platforms together. These individual teams of a SAP practice or a Pega practice coming together to create that solution and to create that value proposition for business transformation for some of their clients. So I think that this is another interesting phenomena that we see in the platform services market today. Moving on to the next slide. Yeah. So we have so far talked about the kind of demand themes that we see in the market from an enterprise demand perspective, as well as from a service provider go-to-market perspective. Now we'll discuss some of the challenges that we see in the S4 HANA and the SAP ecosystem, right? There are 4 key challenges. The first one is licensing model and construct, right? So we all know how difficult SAP license management is. There are dedicated solutions and dedicated services around managing just the license piece of SAP. And what we also see is, the number of products, that an SAP ecosystem has. It's huge, right? Even a lot of service providers are not aware of the entire SAP product ecosystem, and they are in that ecosystem for many years now. And you combine this with year-on-year changes that SAP is making in their product portfolio and their overall messaging in the market. So a lot of these things are confusing the clients in terms of what to do with SAP as a product. So that remains a top challenge. This your second challenge is around customization and integration. I think we discussed a while back in terms of how investment into integration platform is a key demand theme. So integration is a key challenge in the SAP and S4HANA ecosystem as well. These supply chain and these finance processes for large enterprises is pretty complex, and these new whenever you are building a new solution in an individual business function, and a specific market unit, integrating that with some other processes to create that unified story is very challenging. Not only at an application layer, but the real challenge lies at the data layer, wherein you to create that unified data architecture within the enterprise, which a lot of enterprises realize that this is very important. But then the challenges and the complexities with application integration prevents them from doing so. So I think that's the second most important challenge. Third is talent availability. Now, talent. So I think we there are a lot of S4HANA initiatives that are right now on paper and have not started just because the partner community lacks the required talent to address those S4HANA transformation initiatives. The demand supply gap within the SAP ecosystem roughly lies around 40 to 45%, which is the highest across enterprise platforms. So talent is a key issue in the SAP landscape, and there are a lot of interesting ways wherein enterprises are addressing some of these challenges, which can be developing their talent base in-house. For a lot of enterprises, they are also investing into building their internal IT teams. For service providers, it's about getting into partnerships with universities and um, hiring the freshers and reskilling and upskilling them into SAP specific certifications. And the third interesting level that we see in the talent market is around also leveraging your non-STEM talent and building some of that talent around SAP grounds up from that perspective. The final challenge is around some of the functionalities. S4HANA Cloud, although it has been around in the market for quite some time now, but then still, a lot of functionalities across, sales, services, human resources, and even certain aspects of finance and operations as well are missing from the module which were there in the equivalent SAP ECC version. So a lot of these functionalities need to be plugged in with some of the other applications. With these can be individual point solutions, or these can be customized applications built in parallel to the SAP platform or S4HANA platform. So that again remains to be a key issue and kind of a deterrent for a lot of enterprises to embark on their S4HANA transformation journey, because they feel the product maturity is not correct in terms of adopting it right now. So those are the four key challenges that we see in the S4 HANA services market. Moving to the next slide. So again, I think from a in the demand theme perspectives, we talked about how cloud migration is a key demand theme. In this slide, we have kind of uncovered in terms of how exactly that cloud migration journey looks like for a lot of enterprises. So when we talk about cloud migration, there are options around public cloud and private cloud. What we have seen in the last 1 year is the overall adoption of private cloud has increased by around 14% from the equivalent number in 2020. And this is largely on the back of a lot of BFSI and manufacturing and retail organizations moving to cloud, which they were earlier not. Now, private cloud gives them that opportunity to migrate to cloud and not worry a lot about their data and some of the other challenges around cloud migration, which were preventing them from cloud migration earlier. When we talk about hyperscaler of choice, right? I think if we look at overall scale, Azure continues to be a hyperscaler of choice for SAP on cloud initiatives, where almost 55% of the cloud hosted engagements that we have covered over the last 2 odd years are found to be on Azure. AWS is the second, which is around 29%. Google Cloud is also gaining prominence, especially in organizations which are more digital native and digital first. So I think that's the kind of split across hyperscalers from a cloud investment perspective. Moving on to the next one. Yeah, I think over the last 1 year, when we look at SAP's narrative in the market, there has been two prominent themes. One is SAP BTP and the other is Rise with SAP. We'll touch upon both these themes in the next couple of slides. In this slide, we talk about SAP BTP. Now, specifically for the service partner community, BTP has opened doors to a lot of interesting services opportunities. Um, Today, when we look at the services market and in the SAP business application services, almost 15% of the revenue today is influenced by SAP BTP. Capabilities around SAP BTP is also kind of acting as a differentiator in a lot of client conversations. Now, these capabilities need not be technical capabilities. These are also about client education. So service providers who have been able to guide enterprises in the right way in terms of how to leverage BTP to its fullest and how can it result in a lot of business value creation for enterprises is really helping them differentiate with some of the other service partners in this ecosystem. Obviously, regulated industries such as BFSI and healthcare and life sciences have a higher traction of SAP BTP, where this platform is kind of acting as a enabler for a lot of customized applications that some of these industries need as of today. So yeah, that's it on the SAP BTP. We'll get to the next slide now. So we have talked about a lot of demand themes, a lot of challenges and opportunities for service partners in this market today. What it essentially means is that so there is a big pie of opportunity out there, and for a lot of service providers who are looking to scale and grow in the SAP services market, I think over the next 2 odd years there is a tremendous renewal opportunity when we look at the SAP market from a consulting and implementation perspective. And if we look at specifically SAP, I think around the overall renewal pie for next 2 years is around 585 million. Now this is split across different industries and different geographies. But then what is essential to understand is these renewable opportunities creates a good way for a lot of service providers to enter into new accounts and or strengthen their position in existing accounts. So these renewable opportunities should be leveraged to create that differentiation and to build that sort of narrative in a particular account. What we have as a call to action for this particular webinar is some of the service providers who are attending this discussion today, in case you want to understand more about this renewable opportunity and how this pie looks across different industries and different geographies, you can request that to us by writing to us, and I think clicking the link somewhere in this window. Yeah. If you go to the next slide, I think that talks about this particular call to action. Yeah. So you can get complimentary insights wherein you can ask for which industry and which geography you are interested in to understand the overall SAP renewal opportunity. Okay. Moving on to the next one. Yeah. So as I said earlier, Rise with SAP has also been a very prominent theme in the SAP's narrative in the market. And we have been trying to uncover like what Rise with SAP means with a lot of enterprises, be it a medium-sized enterprise or be it a large-scale enterprise. So what we understand so far is for a lot of enterprises, they still are not aware about Rise with SAP and what does that mean for them. Especially, these are the enterprises in the mid to large and very large segment who are not aware, and I think a lot of them are looking for answers around what does Rise with SAP mean for them, and from a business case perspective, when they are looking for some of the greenfield initiatives, does it make sense to do it with Rise with SAP or Rise with SAP or without that? but then I think from an awareness perspective, a lot of them are not aware. When we look at the partner community, right? Now this is interesting, right? A lot of there is a lot of dissonance within the partner community as well around RISE with SAP. In terms of a lot of SIs are not clear about the kind of revenue impact that RISE with SAP will have on their services pie. A lot of them are also not very clear in terms of the overall go-to-market with RISE with SAP, that how to approach this from a service opportunity perspective. So that's it from my end. Those were some of the key themes and demand and opportunity that I wanted to discuss from our SAP services market. Over to you, Prateek, Raghav, for the pricing trends.
Sure. So this section would focus more on the impact on pricing because of some of the trends that were highlighted by Abhishek in the previous section. I'll hand it over to Raghav to cover some of the pointers. Raghav.
Sure. Thank you, Prateek. So if we move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So before jumping onto the pricing insight, let me quickly talk about the types of implementation. First is greenfield implementation, which is a business process driven implementation and is generally the most effort intensive implementation because of the significant changes to the business model, processes, or data. The implementation is ideal for companies experiencing inefficiencies due to the outdated processes lacking the functionality to support their growing business needs. On the other hand, if we talk about the brownfield, which is a technical driven implementation, we have seen enterprises are embarking on the journey of upgrading to SAP S/4HANA as SAP is discontinuing ECC support by 2027. On the pricing front, brownfield implementation is relatively more economical than the greenfield, since it only involves an upgrade from an existing system. However, the cost can still vary depending upon the level of customization required for the upgrade. Lastly, bluefield implementation, which is also known as selective data transition, is the most complex amongst the three, and it is best suited for enterprises with multiple SAP ECC instances that they want to consolidate. It is commonly used in scenarios where there is a need to prioritize business continuity with the minimum risk. What we have seen is the proportion of bluefield implementation or the opportunities is limited to 5 to 10% of the deals on which we have advised on, and the remaining portion is more or less equally distributed among the greenfield and brownfield. What we recommend to the service provider is it is really important to differentiate between the solutioning approach and capabilities, as one size solution does not fit across the implementation. So in the next slide, what we are going to do is we're going to double click on the key factors influencing the estimation based on the types of implementation. Over here, if we let's understand why to consider these factors at first. As we all acknowledge, pricing and solutioning always go hand in hand, and either of not being right could lead to loss in the RFX process. One of the major pitfalls we have seen in estimation is provider either led to under solutioning or over solutioning at the RFX stage, and this led to mismatch in the expectations with the customer. It is really important to understand that the factors that impact the sizing and pricing of SAP S/4HANA are different for greenfield and brownfield, as mentioned in the slide. For instance, in greenfield, as we focus on setting up a new system, this requires more effort in terms of functional configuration, customization, data migration, and other factors. However, in a brownfield implementation, the existing system is being upgraded to SAP S/4HANA. So there is less need for the customization. Instead, the focus is on assessing the existing system, remediating SI lists, which is important, unsupported objects, as well as the testing. Moreover, if we talk about in complex SI deals, we observe additional effort drivers in terms of OCM, that we also know as an organizational change management. A full-blown OCM constitute 5 to 9% additional effort on top of the overall effort. Whereas in the case of advisory on the change management strategy, it could be as low as 1.5 to 2%. which is the case for most scenarios. Another is positioning of strategic consulting layer, the roles which focus on strategy and operational alignment themes. Typically, these roles are involved in advisory phase for short duration and constitute 10 to 15% of the overall advisory and design effort. That is why it is essential for the solution architects to understand the factors, their impacts on the estimations to create a right solution and a realistic project plan. Now, after covering the effort part, if we shift our focus to the pricing aspect. So in the next slide, what we are going to discuss is the pricing differential. As discussed earlier, greenfield is more complex and effort intensive because of the obvious reasons, and which results in higher development cost, implementation effort, and thus higher pricing. If we talk about a few other reasons that drive higher pricing, apart from the configuration and customization, one of them is shoring mix. Because of the complexity involved in greenfield, we see higher shoring, onshoring, and thus more resources front-ending the client. On the other dimension, if we see providers with a fat layer of governance deployed in the greenfield as compared to the brownfield. Additionally, providers also bake in a high percentage of risk and contingencies in one of the scenarios. We are seeing it as high as 15 to 20%. As you understand, greenfield implementation are transformative in nature, and in case of complex system integrations or SI deals, providers add additional aspect around the technology consulting, strategic consulting, and the OCM what we discussed, thus drives the higher pricing. So Prateek, what is your observation on how pricing has changed in SAP transformational services across the onshore and offshore?
Sure, Raghav. So if I were to be honest, the past couple of years have witnessed a roller coaster ride in terms of the movement of FT pricing, especially within SAP transformation services. Now, prior to pandemic, if we see the contracts, some of the older contracts, a flat COLA of 2% at onshore, 5% at offshore, were used to be applied on the FT pricing. But then the pandemic resulted in a sudden slump on the FT pricing. It kind of recovered in 2021 because of inflationary environment. We also saw demand boosting up across transformation as well as managed services areas. With the onset of 2022, we also observed huge talent demand and supply deficit coming in because of the war that started in 2022. Eastern European geography was kind of impacted. Huge pressure on Indian and some of the prominent offshore geographies. So talent supply was kind of affected. The service providers were also reeling with very high attrition. So all these factors kind of impacted the overall pricing. If I were to highlight the quantum, over the past 12 months, the FT pricing has gone up by anywhere between 3 to 7%. This could have gone higher. It was slightly on the muted side because of the fact that over the past 3-4 months, we have seen some slowdown in pockets in a few geographies. So at an overall level, 3 to 7% is the increase that we observed across SAP transformation services. There were a few skills, for example, SAP IBP, BTP, Fiori, wherein primarily because of the lack of sufficient supply, the increase was slightly on a higher side. The FT pricing increased by more than 6% over the past 12 months. On the other hand, some of the traditional skills such as SAP BAP, basis, portal, security are the ones wherein the increase was slightly muted. Again, 4 to 6% is the increase that we witnessed. It's not very low, but it's relatively lower compared to the increase observed on some of these specialist skills. Now, that also brings us to the question as to how the future outlook looks like in the SAP transformation area. Right? So now, future forecast, for future forecast, I need to be very clear that we are not talking about an economic mayhem happening over here. So in case the prevailing uncertainty continues for a prolonged period, we anticipate the pricing, the FT pricing within SAP services to go up by roughly 2 to 4% over the next 12 months. Now, just to highlight, the pace at which we anticipate the increase to be going forward is much lower compared to what we saw over the past 12 months. So does this increase in the FT rates also translate on the average daily rates that we observe in the SAP transformation deals? Let's see that in the next slide. So clearly that's not the case. While the previous slide talked about the movement on the FT labor rates, over here we have provided a depiction of how the SAP transformation average daily rates have moved over the past few years. And this takes into consideration the changes that have happened at the pyramids and onshore-offshore mix over the past few years. So at an overall level, we have seen a declining trend. So the pricing, the average daily rates within SAP transformation services deals have gone down by roughly 3 to 5%. And one of the major contributors is higher offshoring. So we earlier used to see 50-55% onshore proportion in many of the SAP transformation deals. Pandemic has shown us that clearly a higher offshoring is definitely possible even in transformation services. So there are many activities, many roles which traditionally were used to be delivered and based out of onshore. They have moved to offshore now, which has resulted in higher offshoring. So roughly 3 to 5% reduction over the past 3 years. But then when it comes to the forecasted pricing, again, the levels at which the offshore levels that we are seeing currently, these are already aggressive as per our understanding. Anything beyond this would be difficult to achieve. So offshore proportion would remain stagnant or would go up slightly. But then on the other hand, because of the fact that FT labor rates going to increase at a slightly higher pace, which is why we expect the pricing to go up slightly. So a 1 to 2% upward movement is what we expect over the next 12 months. But if you notice, even the forecasted pricing for 2023 calendar year is lesser than what we used to see in 2020. One of the primary reason again is higher offshore. Let's see as to what is the movement on the SAP managed services side. So Raghav, what is your observation on that?
Yeah, as Prateek, you have discussed earlier on the multiple factors that are attributing to the rise of pricing, FT pricing across the services. What we witnessed, on the other hand, is the per ticket pricing in the application services is declining consistently. If we see per ticket pricing has declined from index 100 in 2020 to moving towards 92 to 94 in year 2022. The reason for the same, if I have to highlight, is providers are pulling multiple levers to negate the effect of rising cost. One such factor is what we have seen in the deals where we have advised on or benchmarked is providers are standardizing processes to move ticket resolution to lower delivery channel or the cost of channels, which optimizes cost and enables more expensive layers or resources such as L3, L4 to focus on the activities such as RCA. Also, what has happened in the last 2 years, as you highlighted, is clients are getting accustomed to higher offshoring. Recently, what we have observed in deals with offshoring as high as 96 to 98%. In fact, in extreme scenarios, we have an as aggressive 100% offshoring for year one services as well. So this shows us that the clients are now open to shifting their workload to offshore, and not as apprehensive as they were few years ago before the pandemic. Having said that, the past trends, if we focus on the 2023 pricing, we anticipate the increase in the pricing as we have seen that the providers are already leveraged most of the levers on the continuous improvement, and one such is automation. So now, Prateek, how about providing an opportunity for our partners to check how they are faring against the market benchmarks in the next slide? So Prateek,
Prateek,
you are
you're
on
on.
mute.
I'm extremely sorry. Thanks for reminding, Raghav. So those who are watching this webinar, we are giving you an opportunity to assess your current SAP pricing, compare that with the market benchmarks. So to assist you, we have this complimentary price check. On over here, we have provided two metrics. Over here, we have provided 6 metrics, out of which you can select any two, and also 6 locations from which you can select any two countries. So you can select a combination of 4 RUs and countries, and we can help you out with the market benchmarks for these RUs. We look forward for your request. On the right hand side, you would see the CTAs for this. Okay, with that, we are at the last section of this webinar. Over here, we are going to focus on the differentiators and some of the value adds that are being proposed by leaders within the SAP services space. So Abhishek, would you like to highlight the leaders and then subsequently the differentiators?
Sure. Thank you, Prateek. So if we look at our most recently published SAP Business Application Services Peak Assessment, I think this was published late last year. So there are clearly 3 distinct clusters in the market around leaders, major contenders, and aspirants. There are so leaders are these service providers who are doing well in the market in terms of addressing the key pain points and challenges of the service from a services perspective for a lot of enterprises. And I think in the next slide, what we'll do is we'll discuss what are some of the things that they're doing differently in terms of addressing the enterprise challenges and demand themes. Yeah. So I think some of the key success factors are so there are 5, right? So first is investment into client education. As I was talking earlier, from a demand theme perspective, so there are a lot of confusion around the SAP product portfolio, the newer initiatives that SAP is launching, and from an entire product roadmap perspective, there are a lot of confusions in the market today. So service providers, especially the leading service providers, they have been able to educate clients in a better way in terms of how does some of these SAP specific roadmap looks like in individual modules, and what does that mean for them. From a client education perspective, they have also been able to guide these enterprises in their functional transformation. So helping them identify that this is how their future of finance function would look like. This is how agile supply chain would look like, and how is some of these functional transformation is being enabled by SAP and other supporting technologies in the market today. Second success factor is around the investment in IPs and solutions. I think the time to market has been has now become very critical for a lot of enterprises in some of these ERP and other transformation initiatives. Enterprises are looking to realize quicker business value. They no longer have that patience of undergoing a 5 or a 10-year long SAP journey that they have taken in their previous versions. So I think some of these accelerators and tools become a good lever of differentiation, which can showcase that quick time to market value and the business value in early on in the discussions with these clients. So IP solutions and accelerators, these are becoming more and more important. Third is value add through innovation. I think if you look at from a challenge area perspective, from a service provider's side, I think innovation is one of the key challenges that enterprises face while engaging with SAP service providers. I think from an innovation perspective, what enterprises are looking is, they are looking for more and more proactive innovation rather than, reactive innovation. They want service providers to help them think ahead of the curve from a SAP technology roadmap perspective, and as well as from their own digital transformation agenda perspective. So, but right now, what is happening in from a services delivery perspective, a lot of the initiatives are being delivered, just from a SOW lens, or just from a scope lens, and the scope for innovation is very limited in some of the engagements today for the community. But I think the leaders, they have been able to differentiate themselves by providing that proactive innovation. Third is cross leverage of platforms. I think this ties back to my first point around client education, right? So when some of these education around functional transformation is happening, yeah, some of the leaders have been able to showcase their capability not only in a single platform, which is SAP, but also across multiple other enterprise platforms, so that enterprises become assured that this is not only our implementation partner, but this particular service provider can also be our strategic partner. So having those platform capabilities in multiple platform areas is definitely helping our service providers to differentiate today. I think the final is leadership engagement, which is around bringing in senior leadership, which is very industry specific, because a lot of these SAP initiatives are now transformation initiatives, and these are being thought of from an industry transformation lens. So bringing in those ex C-suite of large enterprises in that specific industry helps create that differentiation early on in terms of that consulting conversation. So I think that is also acting as a key differentiator for a lot of leaders in the market today. I think on the right hand side, there are some of the unique ways around how some of the large SAP deals are getting influenced. Hiring of XVC from prospect clients, taking competitive solutioning approach, being a proactive challenger, offering industry-specific solutions, and co-innovating with customers. I think some of these are unique ways in terms of how differentiation is being created in some of the large SAP deals. Over to you, Prateek, Raghav.
Yeah. So thanks, Abhishek. So even on the solutioning side, deal solutioning side, there are several commercial and non-commercial levers that are being leveraged by the leading system integrators to differentiate themselves from the competition, and also to rationalize the cash, cost of optimization and all those things, which is going to be a key theme for this year. So I think we had talked about some of these factors earlier. Offshore mix, for example, is one of the hygiene parameter now. In most of the deals, we are seeing aggressive offshoring being leveraged across deals. In managed services, like Raghav highlighted earlier, we have seen very aggressive scenarios, 100% offshoring also in a few cases. Right? The second differentiators is in terms of tools and accelerators. We have seen a few providers, they bring in industry solutions specific to, let's say, oil and gas or retail solution, so as to expedite the overall transformation journey and to bring down the overall cost. So a very important parameter. And most of the system integration, most of the providers, they have already invested a lot on this specific aspect, as Abhishek had mentioned earlier. The third differentiator is in terms of value-add services. So we do see a few providers, especially the consulting heritage ones, they bring in some of the non-technical roles, such as business strategy or change management roles. So there would be a full-blown organization change management layer that they would bring in along with the technical team. They might deploy a finance SME along with the technical team in case there's a SAP finance implementation opportunity. And with all these additional value add services, they are able to extract more money out of it, right? So they also show value by using such additional layers. The fourth factor that we see is rationalization in terms of talent mix, rationalization in terms of pyramids. So what we have been observing is the shift to left in most of the services, including SAP transformation. Shift left has been one of the key themes in SAP managed services, but was not so prevalent in SAP transformation. But nowadays we are seeing a few providers leveraging lesser and lesser experienced techno-functional consultants within SAP transformation opportunities. Lastly, we also see at times providers proposing slightly different and alternative commercial models to differentiate themselves from some of the competitor SI in a RFX opportunity. Right? We do expect the relevance of each of these levers would remain, and the reason is because these are not just the differentiators. If we look closely at some of these, to some extent, all of these are kind of contributing in the cost rationalization as well, which we believe is going to be one of the key themes for this year, given that the uncertainty is prevalent and we don't know for how long it's going to be the case. On the next slide, we have talked about one of the case examples wherein one of the consulting heritage providers had proposed a slightly different commercial model in one of the large SAP S/4HANA opportunity. So we were in fact the benchmarkers, the advisors to the client in this particular opportunity, and we observed that the provider had proposed a business outcome based pricing for a phase of the entire project. So the entire project was divided into 3 phases: discovery, design, and delivery. For the design phase specifically, the provider had put forth an outcome-based pricing. A part of fee was linked with the business outcome. In case the performance exceeded the outcome, the supplier had the right to charge 2x of the at-risk amount. Now, if you notice, the provider over here has put its skin in the game only for a part of the project, not the entirety of the project. The remaining phases were still in the fixed price construct. The point that we are trying to make is that it's these alternative commercial models which gives the edge to the prospective vendors. Now, such models also decouple the input required, which is the FTEs that need to be deployed, from the pricing, and hence is also often preferred by the clients. To summarize, there are multiple ways and levers that can be leveraged to differentiate oneself and to ward off any potential challenges due to cost optimization slowdown. We talked about some of those parameters in today's session. Abhishek, Raghav, if you have any point to make, please feel free to do so.
Yeah.
Else,
Yeah, thank you, Pratik. I think this has been a great discussion so far. I think we were able to uncover a lot of pricing as well as demand themes. And I think obviously, if people have any specific questions on some of the themes that we have discussed today, they will be you guys can reach out to us in our individual email IDs. We also continue to track the SAP services market, and we'll have next iteration of some of the peak assessments that we are running in the SAP services market. So in case you are a service provider and you are attending this particular webinar and you feel we are not tracking you feel free to reach out to us in terms of letting us know your play in the SAP services market today. We'll be happy to have those conversations. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everyone for listening to this session, and thanks to Abhishek and Laga for providing these valuable insights. Have a good rest of the day, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Prateek.